Hi guys! I am going to work on my January prompt for one little word today, and I know it's super late in the month, very late in the month. I don't intend to be this late every month, but my kind of plan this month was when I read the lesson at the start of January, I sort of thought that I would think about it for a little bit and just rather than rushing in, kind of have more intentional thought behind some of those prompts. Which then led to just the month of January just flying by, and now here we are, and I've got 2 days left to do the prompts. And I know that it's not actually a big deal whether it happens in January or not, but I kind of want to try and stay on track this year, so here we are. If you haven't seen my prep video, I will leave the link up here, but this year I'm using a Life Crafted album. This used to be yellow. I painted it pink because I wanted it to be pink. I added the little space charm up here and some dividers on the inside, and here we go. I've already done a little bit of work before I turn the camera on today because it is very boring watching me write out prompt after prompt after prompt. So I'm just basically going to finish up my album with you. The first thing I've done to my album is add a full page photo. I've done this the last couple of years, and I really like having that sort of selfie at the start of the year and then one at the end of the year. I think it's just a nice way to bookend this whole album. So that's what I've done. I've been really a bit unwell for the last couple of weeks, so I didn't specifically take a selfie for this. I just went back through my camera roll and found one from the start of January. That'll do. I mean, it's a little bit candid, but that's where we are. And because I've divided my album with these 12 tabs, my January prompt is behind tab 1. I've already filled out these cards. The only other thing that I've added in here is I trimmed down a piece of paper to fit into my album, so it's got a fold in it, because when I originally chose my word, I was out for a walk and I came home and I immediately did like a brainstorm, and I kind of want to copy that brainstorm into here just so I have my original thoughts on the word as well as some of these prompts that I've written out now. So the prompt cards that come with the lesson are 3x4. I have just popped them into the album using the two 3x4 page protectors. And then the 6x8 prompts that are in the class, I have resized to fit into a full page protector. So I'll just quickly show you how I did that in Photoshop. So the PDF that came this month, I think it has like 5 pages. The first 2 or 3 pages are 3x4 cards, and I just printed those out as is because I'm going to use the 3x4 page protectors in my Life Crafted album. But for these 6x8 pages, I'm going to need to resize them so that they fit in the full page protectors, which means I need them to be 4 1/4 by 8 1/4, and these are 6x8. So what I've done is opened the 2 pages that are 6x8 pages from the PDF. I've opened them in Photoshop, and I'm gonna crop them and just alter them a little bit to make sure that they fit into those page protectors. Before I get started, the first thing you want to do is make sure that your background color is white. That's going to be very important. And then I'm going to go to my crop tool, and I want to change the size in here to 4 1/4, 4.25 by 8.25. And then I can go ahead and crop. Now if I zoom in here, you can see the PDF has these little grey lines around the outside. They're sort of like crop marks so that you can print them and cut them to the right size. I don't want those in my image here, so I'm going to make sure that I start my crop tool a little bit inside from there, and I'm just going to drag out a square, and then I can zoom back out again and continue dragging my rectangle down. I'm going to need to zoom out quite a way, and I just want to make sure that on this side I'm getting all of that text, just because I want to make sure all of that is in there. I am a little way out from the edge of the page because, like I said, I don't want to include that grey line. And then I'm going to hit return, and the reason I wanted white as the background color is because all of this space down here that is off the edge of this image is going to be whatever color your background image is here, and I want that to be white. So hit return, and I've got the size of my sheet now, which is great. It just has this little grey line across it. You can use an eraser tool, or I'm just going to use a paintbrush. I'm just going to paint some white over top of it. And that is my life crafted size page ready to go, and I can just print that out. I've got the other page to do here, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this one as well. Going to drag my crop tool, then carry on dragging it until I've got everything in there, and then hit return, and there you go. That's why it needs to be white on the background. If you make this error like I have here, you can pretty easily fix it by using your paint bucket tool. Just make sure that the opacity is at 100 and paint that in white, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my paintbrush tool to get rid of that little grey line. Now if I leave this page as it is, you can see I've got all of these prompts up here and all of the space down here. So I do want to sort of spread it out a little bit, and the way I'm going to do that is to use the marquee tool. I'm going to just grab these bottom two first, so I just go back to my pointer. Oh, I'm going to undo that, and first I'm going to swap it so the white's on the background, and I'm going to drag this down until it's about, I'm going to say that question 3 is, roughly halfway down the page, and then deselect it, and then just move prompts 4 and 2 in the same way so that it's relatively spread out. I mean, obviously you could measure this if you wanted to be a little bit more pedantic about it. I'm just eyeballing it because I don't actually know how much space I'm going to need to write these things out. I am going to handwrite these. If you wanted to type your journaling, just grab a text box and pop this in under here, type out your journaling, and then create 3 more text boxes, and then you can go ahead and print. That's a really simple way to add your journaling in. But as it is, I'm just going to print these and then start filling them in. So because the cards that I've used, the 3x4 cards here, the one I've missed out is the card that actually states what your word is. So I do want to add this into the front of my album, some sort of word art, and I'm going to do that in Silhouette, and I'm going to show you how I do that now. So there's one card in that PDF that I haven't actually used, and that's the card where you state what your word's going to be. The way I've set out my album to be, it's got those tabbed dividers for the month, and so if I added that card in there, you wouldn't actually see my word when you opened the album. So what I want to do is create a piece of word art to go at the front of my album on top of all those dividers, along with my selfie, just to make a sort of opening page for my album that is totally visible, which is the point of that card anyway, when you open the album. So here's how I'm going to do it. You can do the same thing too. So easy to make your own word art in Silhouette Studio software. Just to begin, I am going to draw out a rectangle that's going to be the size of my life crafted album page. When it's horizontal, that's the way I'm going to work, just to make things easier. So it's 8 1/4 by 5 inches. So that's the full size of like a page protector rather than the piece that goes in a page protector. I'm not going to use a page protector for this particular piece, so I just want a rectangle so I can see how big that page is. And now I'm going to get on and make the word art. So the first thing I want to do is just grab my type tool, and I am going to spell out my word, which is space. Like I said, you can use any word you choose to. And then I'm going to go to my text palette, and I'm just going to skip straight to the top here and use my frequently used font, Arial Black. This is my favorite font for doing this kind of word art. You literally can use any font you want. You do want to try and stick to one that's sort of a bit heavier. A nice black font is going to work really well for this. Now I've got my word. I just want to right click that, and I'm going to ungroup it. I want these letters to be individual rather than a word, so I'm going to grab those letters and I'm just going to space them out a little bit. Unironically, I'm going to space these letters out just because the next step, I don't want the letters to be touching each other. Let's just increase the size of this a little bit. We can always resize it later on, but it's easier for you to see if I do it this way. I've got all of those letters selected, and then I'm going to go to my offset tool and I want to click offset. You can play around with whether you want sharp edges or cornered edges. I think I'm just going to make them sort of rounded corners. And I'm going to decrease the size of my offset here just until I can see a gap in the E. That's the only thing I want to look out for here. You just want to play around to make sure that all of your letters have got a nice outline to them. And then you can go ahead and hit apply. Now before I go much further, I just want to select both, because these are actually, if I move it, you can see they're two separate pieces. Each one of these is two separate pieces now, so I want to select both of those. Again, I'm going to right click and make it a compound path. So to show you what I mean, let me fill this in white so you can see. So now I've got an outline instead of a letter. If I fill these both with white now, you can see I've just got two separate shapes on top of each other, and it's going to be much easier to work with if we've got this compound path. So again, select both of them and make a compound path, and that's what I'm going to do for each individual letter. I want to make sure that they're still individual. And just so you can see, let me fill the other ones in white as well. And now comes the fun part. We're going to position all of these letters so that they overlap each other a little bit. And I'm just going to do this really roughly to start off with, and then I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. The only thing that I'm really concerned about when I'm spacing these is that it just looks good sort of balanced, so I don't want to have like a big gap in here and then have all of these overcrowded onto one side. So you just kind of want to make it nice and balanced. And the other thing that I do want to be careful of for this particular word is that I don't have any little floaty bits. So both of these letters have inside pieces, and I do want to try and make them touch another letter just so that they don't become loose once they're cut. So everything needs to kind of touch and join. And I'm just trying to get a nice distribution of space horizontally but also vertically, so I don't want any one letter like sticking up in air like that. I'm just going to play around with this until I can get a nice arrangement such as this, and then you want to select all of your letters and go to your modify palette, and you're going to weld them all together. That way we've got one shape, you can see everything's all connected, and then you can go ahead and send that to your silhouette and you will have one word art piece to work with when it has finished cutting. So the reason I had my Life Crafted size page there is I want to be able to resize my shape so that I can see it's going to fit within that. That's the size of the word art that I want to cut. I can now delete that box and go ahead and cut this with my silhouette, and I think I'm going to either do that on some vinyl or perhaps some adhesive card. I haven't quite decided. You will see what I choose very shortly. So I've got my little word art piece, and I tried many times to get it to cut properly. I just wanted to cut it onto some self-adhesive cardboard just to make my life a little bit easier. This is like my fourth attempt, and then when I was peeling it off the mat, I managed to rip it. But I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to make this one work, and the way I'm going to add this into my album is on a piece of acetate. So I have cut this down to be the same full width as my page, which is 5 inches by 8 1/4. If you want to put something into a page protector, then the size is 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. But if you want to print like a full page photo or a full page piece of acetate like this, it's 5 inches to get it to come across to the rings. So I am just going to add my little word here onto my acetate piece. This was why I wanted it to be self-adhesive, so I didn't have to glue anything down, and I'm just going to hope that this comes off nicely. It comes off in 2 pieces, I think. No, look, I've got 1 piece, so once I stick it down, that tear should be fine. I just want to try and get it as centered as I can, and I'm going to put it off to one side. so. You'd never even know that that was ripped. And when I pop this into my album, my word is totally visible again, which is what I wanted. The only other thing that I have to do in here is that I've got these sort of blank spots. There were 5 cards that I chose to fill out. I decided not to add the word. I put that at the front there, and I didn't really need a note to self because I'm going to add in my brainstorm in here, which I think kind of covers that. So I had these 3 spots missing, and I thought I could fill them with pattern paper. But what I did was at the start of January in my room, I've got a few little letterboards, and I filled in the letterboards with some quotes sort of related to my word. So at least it was visible even though I hadn't actually done the prompt yet. So this morning I took some photos of those, and I've printed them out in 3x4, and I'm just going to pop them in here as well. I kind of just want to make sure that it looks good on the background of what I've got here. And I'm going to call that done for January. So I've got my little introduction page photo. This still needs something on the back of it, and I'm thinking I'll just use some pattern paper just to make it pretty. I could add a quote or something too, actually. And then we move into January, and I've got all of that writing. I will add my brainstorm later off camera. And that's it, all done. So as much as I put it off, it was actually really simple in the end, and I'm excited to move on to February. Thank you for watching, and let me know if you've got any questions on any of those tutorials. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye guys.